Hey everyone, welcome to the DEVONthink for Historians YouTube channel. I am coming to you today kind of in a more informal mode. I think this video is going to be a little bit vloggier because I am leaving tomorrow very early to go to Washington D.C. to do an archival trip to the Archives for American Art. I'm going to look at a collection they have of materials about Abraham Mark Datz and also Aaron Guttleman. And I think as part of Aaron Guttleman's collection, there's also part of that collection is about, or is materials from his wife, Sarah Guttleman. So I'm excited to see that too, because this has been a very male-heavy research process so far, and I really would like to speak about the women who were integral to these stories as well. So really looking forward to that. Before I go on, I'm choosing paint colors. I just got out of the shower. I'm like doing a load of laundry. It's all just a little bit wild here because I'm finishing up work too before I leave. So I don't know. I just, you know, this is what research looks like sometimes. It's trying to balance life and home ownership and also get the work done. So I wanted to kind of come on and talk about how I'm prepping. So first things first, I decided to do this archival trip now because I have a little break, a little transition between work things. And so it just seemed like a really good time. I, about 3 weeks ago, submitted the archival reservation form to the archive. So the Archives for American Art is a Smithsonian institution, and they have a very digital system. I've worked in archives where you like literally just send an email to an archivist and say, I'm coming, does this work? And this was like, I have not had any contact with a human whatsoever. It's just been a reservation system. Like I've watched as it's moved through their internal process. And I got an email confirming. So I'm hopefully showing up at 9:30 tomorrow, and they will be expecting me and have pulled my materials, but TBD. So yeah, so I did that about 3 weeks ago, and then once that was confirmed, I booked flights and you know, figured out where I was going to stay, and then I have kind of just been waiting since then. I haven't done much work on the project because I just felt like I'm going to see all of these new materials. I don't really have much to say until I do. I've kind of processed everything that I got from doing online searches and all that genealogy material. I've kind of showed in past videos and all of the newspaper sources. So I've been sitting tight. I was working on a video for the channel about naming conventions, meaning the way you title files in your database. And I kind of stalled out on that because I realized that it would be great to show you what I'm doing with all, like as I name all of these new files I'm going to get at the archive. So yeah, it's been a lot of sitting. I am going to screen share in a moment and show you how I'm preparing for my visit digitally. But before that, let me tell you what I'm planning to bring on this trip. So I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro that I will be bringing. I don't have a lighter computer, like a secondary laptop, like a MacBook Air or a Chromebook or anything like that. I'm going to be bringing my full heavy computer, charging cable, obviously. And then the only other tool I'm bringing is my iPhone and the charging cable for the iPhone. I have 3 different scanner apps I use on my phone. My favorite, the one I kind of keep going back to, is Adobe Scan. And I like it because I find the user interface pretty intuitive, and it's easy to do multi-page or like multi-photo PDFs in it. And it's easy to just then airdrop the scan right onto my computer. So that's really it. I mean, I'll have my like big pashmina scarf that I always bring into archives because I get cold. But other than that, I don't really plan to take many other tools. You know, archives can be pretty strict about what you're allowed to bring into their reading rooms. And so I don't want to schlep anything on the flights that I'm not going to end up using. So it's just going to be my MacBook Pro, my iPhone, and charging cables. So, all right, let's go to the screencast and I will show you how I am getting my database ready for all of these new scans and PDFs that I'll be inputting. So here I am in my Datz DEVONthink database. I'm in the Archives group and the Archives of American Art subgroup. The first thing I want to show is that I have this bookmark in my database. I added it in October of last year. It's to the visitors information page for the archive. I recommend, if there's an archive that you want to visit in the future, that you bookmark this page on their site because it's really handy. When I decided, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make this visit in late January, I went into my database, I found this page, it gave me exactly the directions for how to make the reservation, and I was on my way. Okay, so the first thing that I always do before an archival visit is I open up one of the checklists that comes with the DEVONthink for Historians Super User course. So we have a low and slow checklist and a smash and grab checklist. What does that mean? Well, sometimes you have the luxury of spending weeks or months at an archive. Maybe it's local, maybe you have a fellowship to spend some time there. And in those cases, you have a lot more time and luxury to slowly enter your scans into your database and name the files and add the tags, etc., etc. With an archival trip that's only a day or a few days, oftentimes you just have to take as many pictures of as many documents as possible, and all of the sort of adding into the database and organizing happens afterwards. So that's the difference. Low and slow is for a long research visit. Smash and grab, which is what I'm going to be doing, is for a short visit. So I'm going to open this up. The checklist is divided into tasks before the archive, in the archive, and after the archive. So to start with, create a new note and give it a descriptive name. All right, so this is going to be the file into which you will take all of your archival notes, what you looked at, what you took pictures of, what you want to make sure you remember months later, because you won't actually remember it. I have in my toolbar an icon to quickly make a formatted note, but all you have to do is go to New, Plain Text, Rich Text, Formatted Note, whatever you want. I'm going to create this formatted note. This will be date. That's it. Then in the file, I want to put relevant details. So the archive name, and I don't have a contact person, as I mentioned, I used a reservation system, but if when I get there, there's a research librarian who I'm working with, I will add their information into the notes. So then the last thing we just want to put is collections viewed with collection numbers. Now, it does not seem like this archive uses a numbering system. I have not seen in either of these finding aids any indication that there is a number. However, I can always add them later should I choose. But for now, I'm just going to put the names of the collections. I just save them into my clipboard to make this go more quickly. And then, okay, so that's it. Now my note document is done. I can easily click, put my cursor down and start taking notes right away once I get into the archive tomorrow. Create folders and subfolders. Okay, so let me quickly show you how I did this for my archival visit to Syracuse University's archives, which also holds Datz, a collection of Datz's papers. So beforehand, you'll see from the notes, I visited the archive on November 12th, 2021, but on the 10th of November, I created all of these box groups so that they were ready to go. As I scanned materials, I could drag them right into the appropriate subgroup. Now, I cannot do that this time because neither of these finding aids includes box lists. So the Datz collection is only 0.9 linear feet. That may be only one box. So I'll find out when I get there. The Goodleman papers are definitely more than one box. This is 7 linear feet, and it's partially on microfilm, but there is no box list, and I will just have to see what is there when I get there, and then I can always very quickly create subgroups as I need them. But unfortunately, I can't do that in advance. Now, the last thing is to decide how I'll be taking photos and creating PDFs and test my system for sending files. So I like to use the Adobe Scan app. I like to airdrop files from my my iPhone to my MacBook Pro. I scanned just this piece of paper on my desk to test it. So I'm going to hit airdrop to Avigail's MacBook Pro. Boom. There we go. And I can just drag and drop that in. And here we go. This is a piece of paper from my desk. It's a very valuable piece of evidence that I will be deleting momentarily. Okay, so that we know that works. I can send my PDF to airdrop and it just goes into my downloads folder, and then I can just drag and drop it into my database. So tested, we're ready to go there. Once I'm in the archive, as I mentioned, in my notes file, I will be keeping track of every document that I photograph or scan. I'm going to make sure I know what box and folder it came from and some distinguishing details so I can recognize it easily. I'm going to go quickly so I can get everything I need. And before I leave, I'm going to make 100% sure that every PDF that I think I have transferred onto my laptop is actually on my laptop and saved. After the archive, that's when I will take the mess of PDFs that I've created and move them into their appropriate group or subgroup in the Datz DEVONthink database. I'm going to create super annotations for them and add the basic citation information, and I'm going to add a first round of tags and maybe labels if that's relevant. I am going to try to do this each evening after I'm done in the archive, but at the latest, I'm going to do it over the weekend after I finish the 3 days I'm spending there. And so this checklist just, helps me kind of wrap my head around the tasks that will be before me over the next few days. I'm ready to go with notes. I know that my scanner app is working, that AirDrop is working, and I think that's really what I need to do for now. I'm going to delete this because it's useless. And now I'm going to leave this smash and grab checklist up with in the archives kind of here up at the top. So when I open my computer in the archive and open up DEVONthink, this will be front and center and I will be ready to go. Okay, that is how I prepare every time. As you can see, I did the same thing when I went to Syracuse. I have the checklist here. I created a notes document. I had the finding aid saved, ready to consult. So I could kind of go through each box and see, all right, this is what I'll find in these boxes. And I'm, hoping to do the same thing when I get to DC. I'm hoping that they have in the archive more precise archival finding aids. I really, really hope. But I'll report back. So I will be kind of vlogging to the extent possible as I go. All right, y'all. I'll be seeing you soon. Pre-archive fuel. All right, this archive closes for an hour for lunch, which is actually pretty lovely. So I'm walking to a restaurant I like, kind of near Chinatown here in DC. And it's been a great morning so far. I had a wonderful flight down to DC. I had to get up super early, but I was on a flight with only 28 people on it. Like, I got the whole row to myself. It was really nice. And then I had no problem just like taking the metro into the city and getting to the archive. And then once I got into the archive, I finally figured out how many boxes and stuff there were. So it turns out that I have 2 small archival boxes of Datz's stuff to look at, and then like 3 oversized folders, basically like they're his drawings. And I don't even know how to say this. So I had found something out really interesting. In the first folder I looked in, there's a letter that Datz wrote to the director of the archive back in 1961, and it's an interesting letter. Lo and behold, I come to find out that Datz was committed to a psychiatric ward to Bellevue in New York City, if any of you are familiar, and was committed by his wife, Leslie. He claims, though I would take this with a grain of salt, that it was because she was, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the exact words now, but basically that she was like a working woman and ambitious and wanted him to be, this is his words, gelded and a flunky. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this yet.
Um, so he was at Bellevue for a little bit, and then spent like the summer, at least the summer of 1959, in Central Islip, I actually don't know how to say it, State Hospital in New York. And then his brother, who was a psychiatrist or psychologist in Baltimore, basically accepted Datz into his custody, and so he was in Baltimore. And at the time of this writing of this letter in 1961, Datz had was on the West Coast. He basically said that his wife wouldn't let him come home and thought he should still be committed. And so the bulk of the collection, like as opposed to the collection in Syracuse, is from this period in this sort of later period when he is experiencing some kind of psychiatric something. And a lot of the work, but you know what? There's a couple of folders of photographs of his paintings, which is similar to the Syracuse collection, but I would say 3/4 of what's in this archive are drawings from when he was in these institutions. And they're beautiful in their own way. They're all made with ballpoint. I'll try to take some pictures and insert them to show y'all. They're with ballpoint. They tend to be on like the taped together manila folders that like doctor's files are in, those, doctor file folders. And they are of the fellow patients, mostly. There's also some really beautiful drawings of nurses or like caregivers in the facility caring for patients, and there's a lot of natural, like drawings of trees. It's I don't entirely know what to make of it. It definitely has vibes of like not allowed to have tools that are dangerous. Like you get a ballpoint pen and that's it. I don't know. But some of them are really beautiful. And yeah, I'm hoping to understand a little bit more about what his situation was. But there's not a lot of material in this collection, like compared to Syracuse. So I did just get a glimpse at the Goodleman collection so far. And so far I've just seen like scrapbook, like it's a bunch of clippings that are pasted in an old and falling apart scrapbook. But there's a bunch on microfilm that I still have to look at. Okay, I'll report back later. Just wanted to kind of in real time process some of this with you guys while I walk to lunch. So it's kind of a gross day, and I'm excited to get inside. All right, check in later.
Okay, so it's now Wednesday, February 1st. I've been back from DC since Sunday night and have just kind of spent the last 3 days running around trying to kind of bounce back from being away. I had a really successful and rewarding archival visit, but towards the end, I mean Thursday and Friday, I was racing, just absolutely racing, because there was so much material to go through. This was definitely one of those archival visits where I planned for 3 days and could have easily spent, not 3 weeks, but at least 3 more days. And that's really preferable to the alternative, which is when you plan to spend 3 days, get to the archive and realize there's only 3 hours of material to look through. So it's a good problem to have, but I tried to get through as much as I could in the time I had. One thing I really liked about the Archives of American Art is that they opened at 9:30, closed at noon, opened at 1, and closed at 4. And so you really, you had to really make good use of the time, but it also forced you to go and eat lunch and mentally process what you had accomplished and plan for what you wanted to accomplish in the next session. And that was really nice. I mean, I felt very civilized. So I didn't resent having to leave for lunch. I felt like it was a nice structure. I wanted to hop on and kind of talk about some general reflections on what I found. I spent probably the first day to day and a half digging through Datz's collection. The collection at the Archives of American Art seems to be from the last decade of his life, so 1959 to 1969. As I mentioned kind of in a reaction video earlier, it seems that Datz really struggled with his mental health at the end of his life. I am not a clinician. This is not a diagnosis, and it is absolutely informed by my own therapeutic perspective from the present, and is not perhaps accounting for the realities of the 1960s. But reading through these materials, I really felt like Datz was a narcissist and a misogynist. And while his work is beautiful and he's a very accomplished artist, he's not someone that I kind of walked away from the archival experience feeling like I really wanted to spend a lot more time with. I more so really felt a connection to Aaron Guttleman from looking at his and his wife Sarah's papers. That collection reflected deep and sincere relationships with friends and family members. Through the tragedies that Aaron and Sarah experienced in their lives and the hardships, they had people constantly reaching out to them with sympathy and support. And they were always involved in organizing in their communities and serving their communities. And I just kind of left on Friday feeling like I still want to write about Datz, and I still think that his story opens up a lot of other interesting stories. But in terms of kind of who in the past or what in the past is really meaningful to me today in the present, it's more so the actions and intentions of Aaron and Sarah Guttleman. So I'll hopefully be talking more about them as I continue processing the papers. So here's what I ended up accomplishing. I got all of the written material out of Datz's collection. I would say 80 or 90% of it was sketches from the time he spent in mental health treatment facilities in the early 50s. Sorry, that's not what I meant. In the late 50s. And then, and I took some pictures of those sketches, but there were just so many and they were really similar. And then I spent I think, last 3 sessions, so Thursday afternoon and all day Friday, going through microfilm for the microfilm of the Goodleman collection. It was, I think, 7 reels, and I got through maybe 3 of them, and not in total, like parts of 3 of them. They're just, microfilm is really tedious to use for those who haven't used it. You do a lot of fine tuning of, you're scrolling through a reel of film, and you have to sort of precisely know when to stop and start and readjust, and it can make you incredibly nauseous if you're sensitive to digital motion sickness, which I very much am. And so you kind of lose a lot of time in just futzing around with the microfilm. I did manage to scan a lot of material. The nice thing about microfilm is that most of the technology today ties the microfilm machine to a computer and allows you to take a scan directly as a PDF, and then to use a jump drive or email to move it over to your computer, which is amazing, which means that I don't have to create individual PDFs from photos or use the scanner on my phone, which I did for the Datz collection. So the challenge I have now is that most of those I just did in big batches, because it allows you to just as many microfilm images as you want into one big PDF. So I have to split PDFs that are like 3 examples of sculptures, and then 3 membership cards, and 3, just a bunch of stuff that was proximate on a reel that I wanted to scan, and lumped into one PDF. So it's just a lot of processing that's going to happen in the coming weeks. I'm going to do some screen shares, kind of show you how I'm processing stuff. I've already done a little bit of it. I'm not sure how much of it is going to be incorporated into this video or upcoming videos, because I was still kind of figuring out how I wanted to do things. So I feel like I'm rambling at this point. I just wanted to hop on and let you guys know why I didn't manage to get any footage from the last 2 days in the archive, and just kind of disappeared. But it was a very successful trip, and I'll have a lot to share with you in the coming days and weeks. So until then.